A week ago, my world turned upside down. Sarah, at 22, found herself grappling with overwhelming guilt and confusion. For 2 years, I had been in a relationship with Liam, who was 25. He was everything I thought I wanted: attentive, caring, and my solid ground. Yet somewhere along the line, the excitement that once fueled our relationship began to dwindle. Liam used to surprise me with little gifts and spontaneous dates, but those moments became rare, and I felt increasingly sidelined in our relationship. I tried expressing my feelings to Liam, hoping for a change, but our relationship continued to feel stagnant. One evening, fueled by a desire to just let go and have fun, I went out with a couple of friends. The night was vibrant, filled with music and laughter, a stark contrast to the growing monotony at home. As we danced, a group of guys joined us. Although I was initially uncomfortable, I kept my distance, ensuring nothing inappropriate happened. As the night progressed, one guy who was particularly charming and seemed genuinely interested struck up a conversation with me. He asked for my number, and feeling pressured, I gave him a fake one to avoid any further advances. Later, another man approached me. He was perceptive and could tell I was already in a relationship by my reserved demeanor. We started talking, and he shared that he had recently ended a long-term relationship because it lost its spark, echoing my current feelings. Curiosity got the better of me, and I asked him to elaborate on his experiences. He explained how liberating it felt to meet new people without the weight of expectations. As the evening ended, he gave me his number, which I hesitantly accepted. On the ride to my friend's place, I impulsively texted him, and before I knew it, I had decided to meet him. He lived alone, and his place, with a neatly parked car outside, seemed inviting. Inside, one thing led to another, and we ended up kissing, which escalated quickly. The next thing I knew, it was morning, and I was in a panic. This wasn't supposed to happen. I wasn't supposed to stay the night. Liam had been trying to reach me, and my friends, worried about my sudden disappearance, even called my dad. Ashamed, I lied to Liam, saying I had simply crashed at a friend's place. When I returned home, the guilt was unbearable. I cried in the shower, the reality of my actions sinking in. Confronted by Liam later, who had seen my texts thanks to a tip-off from a friend, I broke down again. Despite my tears, I denied everything, hoping to protect what little we had left. Liam, hurt and betrayed, asked me to leave. In that moment, I lost not just the love of my life, but my sense of self. In the following days, I felt numb. I couldn't eat, sleep, or attend my classes. I avoided my friends, blaming them for exacerbating the situation by telling Liam. Consumed by regret, I tried to think of ways to mend things, to explain why I did what I did, but found no easy answers. Days later, gathering all the courage I had, I returned to our apartment, hoping to find Liam and perhaps salvage our relationship. But I was met with a chilling emptiness. The apartment was barren, stripped of all Liam's belongings. It felt like stepping into a void where once there was life. Desperate, I tried reaching him, but he was resolute, cutting off all communication, leaving me to face the harsh consequences of my actions alone. Now I'm left to ponder the ruins of a relationship that once held so much promise. How could I explain to Liam the void I felt that led me to make such a destructive choice? Is there a way to regain his trust, to show him that this mistake isn't who I am? I'm searching for answers, hoping for a second chance to right the wrongs and restore the love that I so carelessly shattered. When I returned to the apartment that Liam and I had shared, the stark emptiness was more than just physical. It was a haunting reflection of the void now between us. The rooms were hollow, the once cozy spaces stripped of all warmth and life. Where laughter and love had filled the air, only silence and the ghost of past memories lingered. Liam had taken everything with him: the furniture that we had chosen together, the kitchen appliances we used for our weekend breakfasts, even the laptop he had given me on my last birthday was gone. I stood there in the middle of our living room, the place where we had planned our future, now just a shell of its former self. The only items left were the ones distinctly mine, including a lonely bag of pretzels in the fridge, a meager reminder of the life I thought we were building. It was as if Liam had erased himself completely from this place, from my life, leaving me in a void that mirrored my internal desolation. Desperate for some form of connection or closure, I tried to reach him. My calls went straight to voicemail, each unanswered ring amplifying my isolation. I was confused and frightened, not just by his sudden disappearance, but by the totality of his removal. Was this really the act of the man I loved, or had I never really known him at all? I was still grappling with these thoughts when I decided to dial his number from a different phone, hoping he might answer. The conversation was brief and crushing. Liam's voice, once warm and familiar, was cold and distant. He confirmed that he was moving out permanently and had no intention of renewing our lease come May. When I begged him to let me retrieve my files from the laptop, he told me it was too late. He had wiped it clean, just as he had wiped away our history. His final words were a sharp goodbye, leaving me reeling from the finality of it all. As I stood in the empty apartment, the reality of my situation began to sink in. I had cheated, lied, and now I was paying the price for those decisions. Liam's actions might not have been entirely legal, particularly with how he left the apartment and took items that also impacted me, but they sent a clear message of his intentions and feelings. Faced with the remnants of my broken relationship, I realized it was time to reflect deeply on my actions and their repercussions. The pain I was experiencing was a direct result of my own choices, and the path to healing would be long and fraught with the challenge of self-discovery and accountability. I needed to understand not just why I had made the choices I did, but how I could prevent them in the future. This was not just about getting Liam back. It was about becoming a person who could be true to herself and to those she cared about. In this moment of profound solitude and reflection, I knew that my journey was just beginning. The road to forgiveness, both seeking it from those I hurt and granting it to myself, would be complicated. But I had to face it, to learn from my grave mistakes, and to hopefully emerge stronger and wiser. The empty apartment, a stark canvas of my former life, now stood as both a challenge and a chance to rebuild, not just the physical space around me, but my inner self as well. As I moved through the next days, slowly picking up the pieces of my disrupted life, I clung to the hope that this was not the end of my story, but a painful yet crucial part of my growth. The journey ahead would require confronting harsh truths and enduring the consequences of my actions. But it was a necessary path to reclaim the integrity and trust I had so carelessly squandered. Continuing from the previous narrative, grappling with the fallout of her own actions, Sarah found herself reflecting on the stories of others who faced similar crises. She remembered a story shared by a close friend, Lisa, who had experienced her own tumultuous journey through infidelity and reconciliation. Lisa met her husband, Mark, back in 2000, and over the years they built what appeared to be a stable, loving life together. Married in 2005 and blessed with a son in 2010, Lisa thought she had everything she ever wanted. However, amidst the day-to-day routine, Lisa felt a growing emptiness that she couldn't explain. It was during this vulnerable time that she grew close to a colleague, James. What started as innocent work-related conversations gradually evolved into something more, something personal. As their emotional connection deepened, Lisa found herself entangled in a relationship that went beyond friendship. When Mark discovered the affair, the foundation of their marriage shook violently. The confrontation was devastating. Faced with the hurt in Mark's eyes, Lisa confessed not only to the recent affair, but also to a past mistake, a one-night stand she had years ago, which had haunted her ever since. Determined to salvage their marriage, Lisa and Mark decided to undergo both individual and couples therapy. The road to recovery was fraught with challenges. Trust had to be rebuilt from scratch, and the layers of pain, mistrust, and resentment were thick and hard to penetrate. One of the most difficult decisions was whether to disclose the affair to James's wife. After wrestling with the moral implications, Lisa chose to remain silent, fearing the potential destruction it could cause to another family. As they worked through their issues, the well-being of their young son was always in the forefront of their minds. They shielded him from their conflicts as much as possible, but Lisa couldn't help but worry about the long-term effects their strained relationship might have on him. While Mark found solace in sharing his pain with close friends and family, seeking their support, Lisa preferred to keep their struggles private, not wanting to be defined by her mistakes. Through therapy, time, and genuine effort, Lisa and Mark slowly found their way back to each other. The process was painful and required a level of honesty and vulnerability that neither had anticipated. Lisa learned the hard way that her actions had consequences, not only for her marriage but also for her self-perception and her relationship with her son. She vowed to rebuild herself into someone who could be trusted and respected, not just by her family but also by herself. Sarah, reflecting on Lisa's story, realized that her journey might follow a similar path of redemption and healing. She understood that rebuilding trust and restoring a relationship takes time, patience, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Inspired by Lisa's courage and the eventual rekindling of trust in her marriage, Sarah felt a renewed sense of hope. Perhaps with enough effort and introspection, she too could find forgiveness and peace. The path forward was uncertain, but the story of reconciliation gave Sarah the strength to believe in the possibility of a second chance, not just for her relationship, but for herself as a person. Sarah absorbed Lisa's story, reflecting on her own predicament and grappling with the far-reaching implications of her choices. The realization dawned on her that her actions had not only fractured her relationship with Liam, but could also have lasting effects on her own sense of self and potential future relationships. The weight of her decisions bore heavily on her as she considered the broader consequences of her actions, especially when it came to the well-being of any future children she might have. As Lisa had shared, maintaining the integrity of family life and protecting children from adult complications is paramount. This insight struck a chord with Sarah, making her rethink how she had handled her situation with Liam. Lisa's struggle to shield her child from the fallout of her marital issues and her efforts to rebuild trust within her family highlighted the importance of handling such personal crises with grace and responsibility. With no children to consider directly in her immediate situation, Sarah's reflections were more focused on how such issues could affect her in the future. She understood that the consequences of her actions could extend beyond the present moment, affecting her future relationships and family life profoundly. The idea that her own child might one day look at her with contempt was heart-wrenching, and she knew that she had to make significant changes in her life to prevent such a scenario. The hardest truth for Sarah was acknowledging that the damage done might be irreversible in some respects, but also recognizing that personal growth and healing were possible. She committed to taking active steps towards becoming a better person, one who could be trusted and respected again. This meant embracing full responsibility for her actions, seeking professional help to address underlying issues, and learning how to build and maintain healthy relationships. As she moved forward, Sarah realized the importance of being transparent with those close to her, understanding that while privacy is crucial, the support of a community can be invaluable during times of personal turmoil. She pondered on how she would handle disclosure in future relationships and what it would mean to be honest about her past with someone new, especially if it involved co-parenting. The advice she gleaned from reflecting on Lisa's story was a mix of caution and hope. Protecting a child's emotional well-being was paramount, and Sarah knew that any future decisions would need to be made with the potential impact on a child's psyche in mind. The road to redemption was long, and the journey toward rebuilding her life and future relationships would require patience, understanding, and a deep commitment to change. Sarah also realized the inevitability of truths coming to light and the importance of facing them head-on. This would not only involve making amends where possible, but also preparing for the reality that those she might love in the future, including her own children, would one day understand her past. The thought was daunting, but Lisa's story provided a blueprint for handling these truths with integrity and courage. As she turned these thoughts over in her mind, Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose. Her path wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary for the kind of future she hoped to build, one where she was not only forgiven by others, but could also forgive herself. Another story. At 25, I thought I had my life perfectly mapped out with Alex, my 24-year-old fiancé. From sharing crayons in kindergarten to dancing at prom, we were the quintessential high school sweethearts. Our bond deepened through a long-distance relationship in college. Alex was my first and only love. When he proposed last year, our joy overflowed into meticulous wedding plans set for next month. Unexpectedly, my friends revealed their surprise for my bachelorette party through a group chat mishap. The plan for a wild night out didn't sit well with me. I preferred something simpler. So we chose a girls' trip to Miami, echoing the vibrant reunions from our favorite film. Alex was supportive and shared the idea with his best man, who organized a similar trip for him and his buddies. He dropped me off at the airport, and our adventure began 4 days before the guys. Our days were filled with sightseeing and moderate nights out. As each day passed, the festivities escalated, but I made sure to share every moment with Alex. The trip reached its peak on the last night. In a moment of high spirits and influenced by the crowd, I accepted a dare to kiss a man we had just met. What started as a simple peck turned into a deep embrace, cheered on by a small crowd. To my horror, Alex walked into the scene just then. In an instant, our world seemed to collapse. He pulled me aside furiously, his eyes searching mine for an explanation. "What's happening, Jamie? Is this what you've been up to?" he accused. I struggled to find the words, the alcohol fogging my thoughts. "It was just a dare, Alex. It meant nothing," I managed to say. "How can I believe that?" he shot back. "It looked pretty intimate to me." I could see the hurt in his eyes, mirroring the panic in mine. "Alex, please. You have to believe me. I love you. I've never even thought about anyone else." But the image he had seen was too much. "I can't do this," he said, his voice breaking as he turned away. I reached out, trying to hold him back, to make him see it was a foolish mistake. But he walked off, leaving me amidst the chaos, my heart sinking. That night I couldn't sleep. The joy of our shared past, the anticipation of our future. It all hung in the balance because of a fleeting, reckless moment. I knew I had to make things right, but the path was clouded with doubt and fear. As dawn broke, I made a decision. I would find Alex, explain everything, and hopefully mend what had been broken. This trip was meant to celebrate our future, not endanger it. With a deep breath, I prepared to face the consequences of that night, hoping our history and love would guide us back to each other. The sun rose, and with it, a mix of dread and hope churned in my stomach. Yesterday's advice from my friend resonated loudly. Give Alex space. But this morning, learning he had cut his trip short and possibly blocked my number, panic set in. Was our love not strong enough to survive a mistake? I followed my friend's advice despite my instincts screaming to fix things immediately. I extended my trip, hoping distance might soften the blow of last night's folly. Living together made separation more daunting, but I needed him to see my remorse was genuine. Days trickled by with my sporadic attempts to reach him. On the third extended day, Alex finally answered. His words sliced through any hope of reconciliation. Our wedding was off, and he wanted no further contact. I felt a desperate urge to explain, to hold him, to make him see it was just a foolish mistake. But the phone clicked dead, leaving my pleas unspoken. Returning home hastily, I found myself locked out of our apartment. The reality hit hard. This was no simple lover's quarrel. Alex had changed the locks. My shock deepened when I learned he had left my belongings at my parents' house and called off our wedding without a chance for us to talk. In disbelief, I reached him at his work. The conversation turned heated as we argued about his drastic actions over what I still believed was a minor transgression. His resolve shattered my heart further. He was firm. The relationship was over. Feeling cornered and desperate during our final meeting, I blurted out a lie that I was pregnant. His demand for a DNA test was a clear sign of his broken trust. Overwhelmed by his coldness, I reacted impulsively, slapping him before storming out. The years of love reduced to a moment of betrayal, it seemed surreal. Sitting alone, the weight of my actions and their repercussions began to sink in. How could a single kiss dismantle decades of love and plans for a future together? My mind raced for answers, yet none justified the pain inflicted on both sides. Alex saw my actions as a betrayal, not just a trivial mistake, and his hurt was valid in his eyes. In my heartache, I realized that love is not just about shared history or plans, but also about respect and boundaries. My mistake was not just in the act itself, but in underestimating its impact on Alex. What seemed minor to me was monumental to him. Now, facing the ruins of our relationship, I understand that reconciliation isn't about proving who's right, but acknowledging the hurt and healing together. As I reach out to friends and family, their support is my solace, helping me navigate this maze of emotions. In moments of reflection, I acknowledge that moving forward means respecting Alex's need for space and possibly accepting that our paths may diverge. But first, I must confront my own actions and learn from them, hoping that growth comes from the ashes of our lost love. As I navigated the aftermath of our breakup, I couldn't help but reflect on the complex dynamics of trust and forgiveness in relationships. My own journey of understanding and healing was interrupted by news that mirrored my own troubles, but through the lens of my closest friend, Michael. Michael confided in me last night, his voice shaky, revealing that his fiancée, Sarah, had admitted to an emotional and physical betrayal with a coworker years ago, before they were engaged. They spent the night grappling with tears and the raw edges of betrayal. His story poured out in a flood of confusion and hurt. It was like looking into a mirror of my own pain. They didn't go all the way, but it's not just about that, is it? Michael questioned, seeking my thoughts. His dilemma was a reflection of the very issues I had wrestled with: trust, commitment, and the possibility of a future tarnished by past mistakes. As Michael recounted their conversation, it was clear that Sarah was remorseful. She had left her job to distance herself from the man, but occasional texts had continued, a fact that gnawed at Michael's trust. Now, with her offer to cut all ties, a sliver of hope remained. Yet his heart was heavy with doubt. "She's willing to see a therapist," he mentioned, uncertain whether to join her in those sessions or navigate his healing alone. Listening to him, I felt a twinge of empathy mixed with my own unresolved feelings. "Michael, therapy might be good for both of you," I suggested. "It could help unpack these emotions safely and see if the relationship can withstand this storm." We discussed the importance of transparency and the need to establish new boundaries if they decided to move forward. It was a conversation that mirrored the advice given to me: find a balance, understand each other's perspectives, and prioritize emotional well-being. Michael was torn, much like I had been, between the love and history shared with Sarah and the fear of recurring pain. "Everyone thinks we're perfect for each other," he sighed, a statement that resonated deeply with me. The echo of public perception versus private pain was all too familiar. As we talked, I realized that sharing our experiences was cathartic. It not only provided a sounding board, but also reminded us that these challenges, while deeply personal, were not unique to us. The path to forgiveness and rebuilding trust was fraught with obstacles, but not insurmountable. "I'll take some time to think," Michael concluded, his decision to reflect alone on his relationship echoing my own steps toward healing. As we parted ways, the weight of our conversations lingered, a reminder of the delicate threads that hold relationships together. In the solitude of reflection, both Michael and I faced decisions that would shape our lives. The road to recovery was not just about overcoming a singular event, but about understanding the depths of our emotions and the resilience of our bonds. As the weight of the recent revelations about Sarah pressed on me, the echo of my own past struggles with trust and betrayal resurfaced, reminding me how delicate the threads of relationships can be. Michael's turmoil was a mirror reflecting my own unresolved issues, and his decision to possibly seek therapy resonated with my path towards healing. As we sat together, Michael's conflicted thoughts spilled out. "She wants to completely cut ties with him, which is a relief, but why even inform him? Why give him that closure?" His voice trembled with a mix of hope and skepticism. "It's about her taking responsibility," I offered, recalling the painful lessons from my own experience. "Maybe it's her way of showing commitment to you, trying to mend what's broken." Michael nodded, his mind wrestling with doubt and the desire to forgive. The option of therapy came up again. "Should I go alone first, or should we start this together?" he asked, his voice uncertain. "Maybe start by yourself," I suggested, thinking about my initial hesitation to seek help. "It'll give you space to sort out your feelings without the pressure of her reactions. And if you feel it could help, you could try sessions together." The idea seemed to offer him a sliver of clarity, and he agreed it was a good first step. We discussed how therapy could provide a safe space to confront his emotions and explore whether their foundation was strong enough to rebuild. As Michael prepared to find a therapist, the flood of comments from friends and strangers alike echoed in his mind. Many urged him to reconsider the relationship entirely, highlighting the difficulty of rebuilding trust. "How can I ever feel secure again?" he wondered aloud. "Every time she's late or out with friends, will I be questioning her?" I shared my own journey of attempting to rebuild trust after my breakup, the slow realization that sometimes love isn't enough if the foundation of trust is shattered. "It's not just about forgiving," I explained. "It's about whether you can live with the memory and not let it shadow every moment." As Michael absorbed these thoughts, I could see the struggle within him. The urge to forgive battled with the fear of being hurt again. He decided to postpone any immediate decisions about the wedding, giving himself time to seek counseling and truly understand his feelings. Our conversation ended with a plan for him to start individual therapy sessions. As he walked away, I felt a kinship in our shared pain and the complex journey of healing. It was a reminder that while love can be a powerful bond, the scars of betrayal are profound and often require more than just time to heal. As for myself, witnessing Michael's ordeal reaffirmed my own decisions in the path I had chosen. Healing was not linear, and sometimes the hardest decisions led to the most growth. As we both ventured into our separate journeys of recovery, the lessons we learned about ourselves and the nature of forgiveness would undoubtedly shape our futures.